Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned into episode number 421 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. This is our deep dive episode, and it's kind of a follow-up deep dive to episode number 322, which we did back in January of 2020. And we're going to be talking tonight about YOTA, which is a topic we bring up every now and again on the program, Youths on the Air. Utes, as we like to say.
Utes, yes.
Yep. Not to be confused with youngsters. I actually listened to 322 today, so I could kind of refresh my memory of, of what's going on now. But yeah, so we have a couple of guests tonight, but before we get to our guests, we will get to ourselves. Cheryl is on assignment tonight in the kitchen cooking up something yummy with blackberry habanero sauce. And she is W5MOO. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
All right. And when we talked to one of the organizers of the Youths on the Air program for IARU Region 2, that would be the Americas, who also does a talk show and a podcast called Ham Talk Live. It's Neil, WB9VPG, the man with the worst call sign on the planet.
Yeah, that's it. Got it.
Good evening, Neil. It's good to have you back on the show. Thanks for being here to talk about the youths.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, I thought, maybe this was after I moved to Kentucky here about 2 months ago, that maybe it was time to switch the call sign and finally get rid of the worst call sign on the planet. But after 45 years, I couldn't part with it. So it's still here.
Right. Everybody knows it now. So I think you are kind of stuck with it. So it only took 45 years, but everybody knows it now. So
yep, there you go.
All right. And you actually brought us a guest tonight, one of the participants in the Youths on the Air camp for IARU Region 2, which finally happened this year. It could not happen last year because of a certain global pandemic. But you brought with us to talk to us tonight, Peter. Do I even want to try that? Lafreniere? Is that right? Is that close?
That's right.
Oh, okay. November 8th, Papa Juliet Lima. Peter, thanks for being here on the show tonight, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Neil was able to get me to come here, and I might as well.
Your
Nothing better to
enthusiasm
do, right?
is absolutely overwhelming. You picked the right guy, Neil.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Peter's our resident hacker, so I thought, well, what better show to bring him on than this one? But Peter was one of 23 Utes that was at the Utes on the Air camp over in Westchester, Ohio. That's the northern suburbs of Cincinnati last week, and we just had a blast. So I'll jump in here a little bit, but I want Peter to talk about what he experienced. And last year we couldn't have the camp, so we did do a virtual day. So we did like a 6-hour marathon on Zoom with some web-based activities, and Peter actually won an IC 7300.
I did.
From R&L Electronics. So tell us a little bit about that, Peter.
Hey, we don't do advertising on this show. I mean, what are you trying to do? You jump right in.
From an electronics dealer nearby.
No, you can definitely mention R&L because I buy stuff from them at Hamvention every time we go to Hamvention. And, I'm kind of hoping we get to Hamvention one of these days.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it sure would. Well, before we let Peter take over the show, because we are going to let him do that, just give me a 2-minute recap of episode 322, basically what you guys set up, what you were planning on doing in 2020, and what finally happened in 2021. And then we'll get all of the gory details from Peter.
All right. Well, we had planned a little over 2 years ago to kind of replicate the Youngsters on the Air camp program from Region 1, and Sam Rose, KC2LRC, and Sterling Coffee, now Sterling Man in 0SSC, went over to Austria and basically were sent there to be the intelligence and spy on everything and take notes and bring everything back here. and there were a few attempts to make it happen, and there were a lot of liability issues and some other things that kind of got in the way. And so after a few years, we finally got to the point where I had a weak moment and said, well, hey, what if I headed up? And so we talked about it and started working on it. And so we planned out an entire week. We fundraised the money to pay for it. We did it up at the Voice of America Museum in Westchester. And there was a hotel nearby. That was one of the things that was a little different from the Youngsters on the Air program. They usually had a youth hostel, where they could do some real cheap lodging right there on site. But we did have a hotel across the road that we could use. We negotiated a nice discounted rate from them and made that work. And here we are. We just finished our first week of camp. And what makes YOTA camp a little different from anything else, and why it's been such a success over in Europe, is that it's led by the youth. Most of the sessions are led by other youth, and it's been proven that, people tend to ask their peers more than they will ask their teacher, which as a chemistry teacher, that, frustrates me, because I'm like, I can help you. And I was actually reading an assignment for a class that I'm taking right now, and one of the articles was about this very thing. And it was, that peers will answer the questions in a way that's not intimidating, and they'll, students will only ask questions of the instructor if it's the absolute last resort, unless the material is so difficult that there's no way in the world any of their peers would know, then they will. So this actually feeds off of that, the youth are there. I'd set all this stuff up. I jokingly called the kitchen at the museum my office, because it's right at the front door, and that was where we had check-in. And so I just kind of hung out in the office and made phone calls and emails and, popped in from time to time and let them go. And it's very different. We're used to bringing in the top experts in the field, and it just doesn't always work for young people. So we're trying this out, and Peter can talk about how he thought that went, but everybody seemed to be pretty happy about it.
Very good. So now we'll jump over to Peter, who was one of the participants. I think you said there were 23. Is that right? Participants?
Yep, 23.
All right. So very good. We'll get to promoting RNL and all that a little bit later.
No.
So Peter, tell us, so how did you come by being one of those 23 participants in this program, in this camp?
I think I heard about it at Dayton quite a while ago. I'm being told it was 3 years ago.
Was Neil signaling you from across the room, or what? Is this smoke signals from Kentucky? So you had to apply for it, right? It wasn't something that just kind of fell into your lap, because I'm assuming there was a great deal of interest in this, and you had to do something to actually get your spot.
Yeah, I actually don't really remember much about that. It was 3 years ago, as I said.
Well, Neil said he was going to jump in, so if he has any insight into how you got your spot, he can.
Yeah, there is an application process. So he filled out an application, and basically we made sure that they had a license, because one of the things that we're trying to address is, to keep young people in our hobby rather than just get them into the hobby. We're also trying to keep them in the hobby and service. So we did have, that application process to make sure that they were licensed. And then we asked some questions about, what ham radio events have you been to? And, what kind of modes do you like to do and that kind of thing. And we were just looking to see, if they had some experience and some interest in ham radio. And so we went through those and we selected our campers.
All right, very good. So, Peter, how did you get into ham radio, and how long have you been a ham?
I actually got into ham radio because my dad is very much into ham radio. He has a huge setup, which I'm actually in right now, to get away from all the noise and little children are coming here anyway. So I first got my license when I was 10, or at least it says it was in 2015.
And the FCC is never wrong, so. Well, if you got your license at 10 in 2015, then I'm going to make a wild guess and say you're about 16 now.
I have no idea where you got that from, but it sounds about right.
Okay. Putting my high school math skills to the test. All right, well, very good. So you applied, obviously, for the camp. You were accepted as a camper. And it was a long time in coming, but it finally did come. So where did you? So you're an 8 call, so you're probably somewhere near where the camp was.
Nowhere near it. I'm about as far away in 8 as you can be.
Okay.
Pretty much as far north in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan as you can get.
Oh, okay. So not only you're a Ute, you're a Youper.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. So, all right. So, what was your when you first got to the camp, when you first showed up there? What was going on? What was the atmosphere of the YOTA camp?
Well, as Neil mentioned, there was an online event the year before during the extended vacation.
Is that what we're calling it now? Okay.
I'm calling it an extended vacation, or an extended vacation from vacations.
Well, there's that, yeah. So did you participate in that as well?
I did participate in it, though I really wasn't a fan. Sorry, Neil. But you kind of just sit in front of a screen.
Yep.
And people are talking about interesting things, but it goes on, and it goes on. I do not regret joining it, because I did win a great radio.
Yeah, the IC7300 is a great radio. Bill's got one of those he's been sitting on from the K2BSA, courtesy of ICOM. So
yeah, it's just sitting 20 feet from me in the box.
So that is very good. So what do you do with your radio? What's your favorite thing to do with it?
With the 7300, that's what it is. I find it great for digital modes. I figure it's a decently high-tech radio when it comes to doing everything digitally. Might as well output a digital signal as well. So FT8.
Of course. I don't think it's any surprise that you operate FT8, because that's pretty much half of the hobby anymore. So. Yeah.
And I don't think you can push very high data rates anyway. Limited to what? 200, 300 baud on HF?
Well, I mean, it all depends on your available bandwidth. So you can do more than 300 baud, but yeah, the idea behind FT8 obviously is to cram as much information into as little bandwidth as possible. That's what makes it so interesting.
What, 50 hertz or something?
And it's weak signal, so the error correction allows you to send data a long way with a little power and a little bandwidth and still make it decipherable, which is, it's a great thing. It's just not much of a chat mode.
Oh no. But it's great for contacts if you're fine with spending a little bit of time, or if you have 2 radios.
Yep.
Just have one on autopilot and then work the other one with your voice.
Not everyone does that, Bill.
Oh, sorry, that's just me. Sorry.
If I remember correctly,
let me click that off.
I think FT8's. I'm pretty sure FT8's 100, not 100. I'm pretty sure it's 10 baud at 50 hertz bandwidth with forward error correction. Can't remember what kind. So
look at you being all technical. We don't care about any of that junk.
Here, I can pull it up. But
no,
doesn't matter.
Right. We're good.
I spend more time doing that than doing radio.
Well, I mean, that's technically radio. It's using a radio. So, or are you talking about the research?
Research.
Ah, the research. Okay.
Oh, yes.
PDFs.
All right, so let me jump back to the actual youth
Yeah,
camp,
let's go
the one
to
that happened in person, which is not the boring Zoom meeting kind that happened last year. So what was the environment like when you got there to camp this year?
I showed up late. I think I was the last or the second last person to arrive. So everyone was kind of busy doing something that they already knew what they were doing, and I wasn't sure what I was doing. So I kind of showed up, and I was led to the ham shack, and everyone was busy, and it was crowded, but there wasn't really any time left to go tour the museum, so I kind of stood around awkwardly for a while. But
All
then,
right.
but then once we got to the opening ceremony, talked about stuff, started to meet everyone at my table, orange table.
Mhm.
We we hung out a bunch, handed icebreaker things, and then we went back to the hotel. I think we did.
Yep.
We might have had some activity or something.
Yep, we split everybody up in age groups and we assigned different colors to different age groups and had different tables there. So he was in the orange group, which all of them were right around 16, and so that was partially to kind of get people the same age talking to each other and getting to know each other better. But it also kind of served as groupings for the COVID guidelines because you could do smaller distancing if you kept in the same small group. And, so that's why we did the groups. But, yeah, once he got there, we had a banquet. Tim Duffy, K3LR spoke. I talked about what was going on. We did this cool icebreaker thing where they built a tower out of index cards, but before they could use an index card, they had to write something on it that was in common with everybody in the table. That was to get everybody knowing each other. Go ahead, Peter.
Might have been easier if you, or might have been better if you imposed a few more rules than there's something in common.
Oh, but that was the fun.
Start with like human being living on planet Earth.
Yep, there you go.
Stuck at this camp.
Yep.
Stuck at this damn youth camp. Wishing I was at home doing something fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Clicking enable TX on my FT8. That's what I want to be.
All right. So after you got through the banquet and the talks and the awkward first day, what was the second day like? What kind of activities were there and cool things to do? I assume there had to be something fun to do at this thing. Otherwise, well, you haven't minced any words yet. So Neil, better put that seatbelt on.
All right, so the next day was pretty great. Started off as trips do with a hotel breakfast, which Neil already mentioned. I'm just going to skip over it. It had coffee. I liked it. It's hard to remember exactly what we did each day, but I'm pretty sure that day was the balloon day, which is
Yeah, that was Tuesday.
that was Tuesday?
Yeah, Monday was
the building kits.
the kit build and
yes.
contesting.
So we went through and built a pretty basic fox hunting kit. Even though it was basic, most of us had to go through several stages of debugging the kits. But so we built those. That was just sitting down and practicing soldering. I did really like those soldering irons. A lot more than what I'm used to.
Oh, that's
a
something.
finer point.
Yeah. It reminds me of something that Neil said in episode 322. He said you were talking about stuff and said one day a box showed up on your porch and it was 30 solder suckers.
Yep.
And you didn't remember ordering them, and then you realized that you had.
Yep.
So did those finally make it to the camp? Did you get to utilize those?
We made great use of them.
Starting with soldering, you're going to. No question about it. Although, as Bill has informed me, and I have found out, desoldering braid works way better than solder suckers. So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For the win.
We gave them both.
okay. So you guys built.
So they threw the solder suckers at each other, right?
Exactly.
So you built
It's a weapon
direction
now.
finding kits, fox hunters. So did you actually have a fox hunt?
Not until quite a bit later.
Okay.
Yep. They were on 80, and they did that on the next to last day. So
Okay, so what about that second day? After you guys did a bunch of kit building, I heard contesting in there. So what kind of contesting? Was that just was that the YOTA contest, the whiskey, was it W8Y? Was that the station, the special event?
Yeah, that's it. So we did have quite a bit of shack time that day. Honestly, my memory's garbage. Barely remember what we did a week ago. So we had quite a bit of shack time that day. But before that, we had it was an eyeball sprint. So everyone's running around and just copying, contacts just on paper with each other in the same room. First time was fine, just warm up. And then the second time, maybe some of the staffers got a little too excited about creating some QRM. And that was even more fun.
There were pileups being blasted over the PA system. I heard a couple of people were actually pushed physically. I was going around yelling, "Oh!" over and over again. Will Jourdain was in the back banging on the tinfoil containers that the Skyline chili came in. So, yeah, we gave him some QRM.
Well, you guys had Skyline chili. That made it all worth it right there.
Did for me. I don't know, Peter, were you a fan?
I really wasn't.
We had a few that weren't.
I didn't really want to mention it, but can't say I was a huge fan of that food.
As Jocelyn says, it's an acquired taste.
Yeah,
Well.
I feel like it would be a bit better with half the cheese.
Wow.
Don't get rid of all the cheese, but just take some of it off. You're not eating cheese with your chili. You're not eating chili with cheese. You're eating cheese with your chili. Like, I've seen bad translations on restaurants, which are ice cream under chocolate topping. Or no, it was ice cream under strawberry sauce.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
focus on the strawberry sauce.
Right. It's
Focus
also
on the
kind of
ice
hard to
cream.
make it that way with the strawberry sauce first. But all right, so let's see, contesting, and then what else happened on the second day, if anything, other than disliking the food?
I'm just picky like that. We had quite a bit of shack time at the Voice of America Museum. The issue is,
How was the VOA museum? I assume you got to tour it at this point, or at least at some point during the event.
I did at the very end. Pretty much everyone else did at the beginning, which, some people did both. It's a great museum. Great museum. They have all kinds of interesting stuff talking about the Voice of America Museum and, what was the, radio station?
WLW.
WLW. I already mentioned my memory. When I came back, I actually had some talks with an older ham in the area who used to work for Bell, and he did some stuff with radio broadcasting, and he could not believe that it was a 500 kilowatt transmitter. That was fun talking to him about that.
That's nice. And yeah, they're not letting amateurs go up there yet.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
what about day 3? What happened? How long was this thing? A week?
The week. Yeah.
Yeah.
a week.
Okay. Well, that's why you can't remember everything, because it was a week long. But so what else? Maybe we won't ask you day by day, because I don't know if you're gonna be able to put that back together. But maybe
Yeah.
pick out some highlights. What were some of the most fun things you did?
Yeah, it sounds like it was a long time, but really it was too short.
Well, that sounds like some praise.
It was good. It was good. I just like being negative. I like being negative. Don't we all? Really,
yeah. The next day was D-Star and then balloons and Dave
Yeah.
and Buster's.
One of my favorite things at the entire camp was that next day with the balloons. D-Star, we had Will Jourdain talk to us about D-Star on the 705s he kindly lent us, courtesy of ICOM. And then the balloons were really cool. We launched 4 balloons that day. One of them was a large high-altitude balloon that carried a GoPro that didn't record anything, and then an Arduino collecting data, just a radio beacon, and then an APRS beacon, and another tracker, just multiple points of failure. And then the other 3 balloons all carried small solar-powered APRS beacons. We learned quite a bit about the balloons as we filled them up and then launched them. First the big one, which ended up going significantly farther than I think it was planned. You know about that, Neil?
Yeah, it was a little over 100,000 feet before it burst. So it went a good ways up, but we thought it was headed for Lake Erie, but fortunately there was a crosswind up there and it pushed it back. So it ended up being landing in a soybean field about probably an hour and a half northeast of Dayton, up around Maryville. And the story that was so cool was that when Jack McElroy and his father Tom went up there to retrieve it, they went and asked permission, to go out in the soybean field and get the payload. And they started asking, what frequency did you use? What kind of tracker did you have? What kind of, they were asking all these questions, and it's like, these guys were mechanical engineers that decided that they wanted to farm. And so they had this farm, and they grow a lot of maple trees and make maple syrup and everything. They brought back a bunch of it. But turns out that one of the guys had actually worked on Google Loon, which was the high altitude balloon internet service that they ended up not doing. But one of them was one of the engineers on it, so he knew exactly what we had been doing, and they went out and helped and was talking to him the whole time to retrieve the payload.
See, I never heard that.
Yeah.
All I knew about it was that all I knew was that on APRS.FI, it uses lower resolution Google Map imagery for some reason. And the part of the field that landed in looked like a pond. So we really thought it had hit water until, the McElroys said, hey, we have it. So I didn't even know that. Thanks for sharing.
We kind of ran out of time to do the follow-up on that, so that story didn't make it all the way around. But we're like, of all the places for that thing to land, we couldn't have asked for a better one.
Yeah.
What other standout events? I mean, we've only covered probably a little bit of what actually went on for that whole week, but anything else that really stood out in your mind as really entertaining or interesting, or something you learned a lot from during the camp?
Go ahead.
I was just going to clue you in. Go ahead.
All right. Well, even though we were doing a whole lot of radio stuff, and we really did cover a lot, we also had a surprising amount of downtime, either just in the VOA museum at that shack of the hotel, in the shack there, or just whatever you're doing at the hotel, or something planned, like Dave & Buster's, and we went to Kings Island for the better part of a day on Thursday.
Wednesday.
Okay.
I said this during the last time we talked with Neil, and that like any adult would die to do this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why is this, why do the kids get to do all this cool stuff? I'd go to Kings Island and Dave & Buster's and
yeah. Well, we did a couple of contests at Kings Island, and it was kind of cool. I was on Facebook and saw this guy commenting, said, I was at Kings Island on Wednesday and I saw these kids in these blue shirts, and they were walking around with HTs and arrow antennas. And I said to my wife, hey, look, these are my people.
So arrow antenna suggests satellite work. So what did you do with satellites?
Yeah.
One person, John, he did bring an arrow antenna and tried to work them from the top of a big old tower they have there. But I don't know if he got any luck or not with that. He also tried using them during the VHF contest, and they worked, but there was a lot of noise. The issue is that everyone's moving together in groups, so you can't split up quite enough for the contest.
Right.
They had 5-minute VHF contests inside the park on 4 different simplex frequencies, and so that was part of their contest, training. But they were all over the park. I said the only place they couldn't go was the Eiffel Tower because that wasn't fair.
So no like roller
With a lot
coaster
of
mobile
signal.
or anything like that.
Yeah, they kind of frown on that.
So did you do anything like straight up educational, like have forums or talks or anything like that? Anything youth led in that space, or is it basically just all hands on kind of stuff?
It's a combination of both. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, we definitely did have quite a bit of youth-led stuff, especially when it came to satellites. We talked about working satellites, and we had Ruth go up and give everyone a presentation, and then we went outside for a pass. She demonstrated everything. Then afterward, for the next 2 passes, we split into groups of 2 or 3 and tried to work the satellite. I never did manage to get a contact, and I even tried later. But that was cool, because it was youth-led. And then I think she did quite a bit on the ISS contact. It was another thing we did.
Yeah, we got to talk to astronauts,
Did you had
Yeah.
I assume you had a scheduled ISS thing for this?
Yes.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
We had 7 people who had questions prepared go up and each ask 2 questions. I wasn't one of them. And then class lasted about 15 minutes, I think. And we got to talk to an astronaut on there and ask them the questions. It's all online on the YouTube.
On the YouTubes.
On the YouTubes, yeah. We'll make sure that Neil gives us all the information for things that anything that came out of the camp as far as stuff that was published. So if anybody wants to follow up and look at things like the ISS contact from the camp, we'll have a link to it. So did you have like any free time? A lot of times, I think of a summer camp, and a lot of times there's scheduled activities that you sign up for and things like that. But then you'll have kind of like just free time to kind of pick and choose what you want to do. Did you have some time like that? And if so, what did you use it for?
Oh yeah, we had more free time than I know how Neil and everyone else fit into the schedule. I feel like we got so much radio stuff done, but we had a whole lot of free time. Outside of, planned events like the Dave and Buster's and Kings Island stuff, we, as I said, chilling in the VOA museum, just talking to people, maybe playing some card games if the shack was full. Otherwise, go in the shack, contact. We had 7300 set up over there, attached to the museum's antennas. And then when we were back at the hotel, tended to be a bit late, but I'm not one for going to bed early. Well, there's a pool, and then there are a lot of people to talk to. We can talk about what we were doing that day. We can just talk about whatever we want. A lot of people have interests that are shared beyond radio. And then I have a laptop in my room, so I could use it.
So one of the points Neil made about this from the very beginning is that the whole idea of the youth camps is that they're youth led, and that makes for a more interesting and dynamic event and for the campers, and makes it so that you're actually more engaged. Do you feel like that was actually true, that it sort of being entirely youth focused and youth run helped the event?
Well, this is the first time we've run this camp, and we had quite a bit of the activities being youth-led. I think almost half or so of the activities were headed by a camper, and otherwise it's some expert in whatever we're talking about. I personally didn't have anything to do in the leadership. I don't have any exceptional experience in any particular field, and I didn't volunteer to help out with anything administrative. So...
But
Weren't
do you
even
feel like
voluntold to do something?
Oh, he was
Jeez.
voluntold to be on the show. I think.
Well, yeah, that's true.
We did do
Yeah,
that.
apparently.
but were the youth led parts of it more interesting? Did you feel like that was a better use of the camp's time? I mean, the experts are obviously going to tell you whatever they know, and you need that sort of direct upfront education. But I mean, was the youth led part of it the interaction with the youths alone? Was that as exceptional a part of the camp as Neil hoped it would be?
It's definitely very different. I enjoyed both the ones by experts, because obviously they know a lot about what they're doing, and and oftentimes they're interesting, and you can go up to them and ask them about particular experiences. But when it comes to a camper doing it, they're going to be there the entire week. Not all the experts are. So you already know, and you can ask more. Well, you can ask questions easier, as he was talking about with asking peers. And then that's what I was going to say.
That's all right. Did you rub your IC 7300 in everybody's face?
I didn't have it with me, and I think I only mentioned it like 3 times, and 2 of them Neil mentioned it or brought it up.
Yeah, because he was walking around he got that from R&L Electronics.
which by the way, I can throw out, about another 15 sponsor names here if you want. But,
no, that's quite all right. Thank you. I could given R&L more than enough time on the show.
Yes, but seriously, thanks to everyone who contributed and supported the camp. I won't go down the list, but we couldn't have done it. Otherwise, the campers had to pay a $100 fee and get to Cincinnati and back. And that was basically to make sure that they actually showed up. The actual cost was around $1,100 plus all the wonderful equipment that came in. So, we couldn't have done it without all the support.
So what kind of cool thing did you guys do to wrap up? What was the grand finale of this thing?
If I remember correctly, which I should, but I'm not sure if I do, the last event that we did was the fox hunt on 80 meters, in which I learned that the combination of the kit that we had and my skill using it and my skill assembling it made it so it was less effective than just using a tiny HT for fox hunting. And that was hot, very hot.
Yeah,
outside.
It was a hot day.
Well, that's okay. It was supposed to be a learning experience, so you learn something. The next time you build a fox hunting kit, it'll be much better than the first time.
Yeah, because I don't want to spend as much time doing it in that heat.
And
pulling off all those bad solders.
Only one, fortunately, for me.
Oh, excellent.
And then the last day we did an antenna build contest, and then we had a closing ceremony and gave away an IC 705 from a store that was nearby.
Very, very well done. Very well done.
Wait, did Peter win that too?
No, he didn't win that.
Was he excluded? Like, could he have won that one?
No, he could have won it.
Oh, that would have been something.
Totally random.
All right.
Yeah. Fixed.
So, Peter, if you had the chance to do it again, would you do it again?
Why wouldn't I? I better have the chance to do it again.
Well, it's only 23 people at a time. Your chance may not come around for a while. It depends on, I guess.
Youngsters in the air in Austria, the full Region 1, like 100 or so people?
Yeah.
We can find space for me.
Well, if these take off and there are more of them around the country and not just this one in Ohio, then certainly you might have an opportunity.
Or they just make this one really big.
Yeah, we'd like to make it bigger, and then we want to get the sub-regional camps going, so to where each country has at least one camp, and instead of trying to get the whole hemisphere into one camp alone. We want to get all these sub-regional camps going, and then feed into the regional camp, which is where we're at right now. Wanting to work on the younger crowd too, the under 15 crowd. We focus on 15 to 25, but I'd like to get maybe a weekend camp with a parent, have a long weekend to come and do one or two activities just to kind of get a taste of it and do some cool stuff. So we'll see how that goes. That's the hope, is that we'll start getting more of these and rotate the location around to get as many people involved as we can.
All right. Well, if anybody in the chat room has any questions for Neil or for Peter, please go ahead and post them. I see that Sterling's in there, and he's been chatting a little bit with us as we talk about this. And I remember that Peter said that a week was not long enough, so that seems to indicate that this was a pretty good experience. And he also wants to do it again. So I'd say you guys had a pretty successful YOTA camp.
It was great. I have enough complaints, but not more than I would if it were bad. I'm always going to have a complaint.
Well, I think we've heard one or two. Is there any other grievance you want to air while we have Neil right here handy?
How about the food? I already mentioned that.
We've heard that one before.
I already mentioned the food.
Yeah, you mentioned the food.
Oh, the
Apparently
lack of
Neil-
air conditioning at the hotel and the radio room,
I didn't even
right?
notice that. I didn't know that, and I wouldn't have known that if you didn't mention that. There was a bit of noise on the main simplex frequency that we were using on 2 meters, but that's to be expected with a camp of that many people. So that's not really a complaint. And then I want to see microwave next year. I'm putting this out now. I want someone to come and talk to us about doing microwave stuff.
All right. Gauntlet has been thrown, Neil.
Yeah, it has.
That's my request.
Yeah.
And I just-
That's why I'm here.
We're meeting next week to kind of debrief and get all this. We gave them a survey to fill out to get, their opinions and, what they want to see, what they want changed, and what we're going to work on.
So from your perspective, Neil, what do you see for like the near future? Like when are you planning on doing the next one? Early summer next year, right after field day kind of thing again, or?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. The dates may move from year to year. There's no way to avoid all of the conflicts. I mean, there's just too many things. There's a contest every weekend. There's, this Hamfest, that Hamfest. Just so many things. We also run into an issue with schools. In New England, the schools will go into late June, but not start until September. And then out here in the Midwest, they're starting, August 1st. So we've got kind of a narrow window there, late July or late June, early July, to, try to get to where we can get most people there. So it's going to be somewhere in that time frame. We're making some plans, but we don't have anything set just yet or the location set just yet. We've got an idea, but we'll have to wait and get through the debriefing and make sure everything is ready to go. But next year's plan is to start training the next group. So this was kind of the pilot to figure out what could go wrong and what would go wrong. And we need that feedback that Peter gave us because, we want to improve on this. And so, we're going to take a look at all of that, see what we can do to help that out. And, once we get things, finalized, we'll make an announcement about, next year's camp.
Well, speaking of next year's camp, Don, KC9ZMY, says, what a great event, Neil. Or Sterling, is there still a site for financial contributions for next year's camp?
Yes. You can go to our website, youthontheair.org, and there's a donate button there. Our GoFundMe is actually still active, but there's a direct link to PayPal there. If you would like to contribute, you can do that. We can do larger contributions, make them tax deductible and all that kind of thing too. But you can find all that at youthontheair.com or .org and hit donate. And you can also do the Amazon Smile thing if you're into that. And Amazon will give us part of your purchases.
All right, very good. So I'm just going to ask. I may have asked this already, but I'm going to ask one more time and see if Peter can nail down whether it was a ham radio topic or anything about the thing. What was like your single favorite thing about the week at camp?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a favorite event. Event that we did was the balloons.
Balloons, fantastic.
That wasn't my favorite part of the camp. I feel like you can't have a favorite part of the camp without pretty much the entirety of the camp.
Well, see, there you go. Your favorite thing was the whole thing.
It doesn't work split up into different parts.
Fair enough. we know your least favorite thing was the food. So, okay. Something to work on. All right. Well, Neil or Peter, do you have anything else you want to say about Youth on the Air camp for 2021 that was supposed to be 2020? Before we go ahead and move on to our feedback segment.
I feel like I've talked enough about it. How about you?
Neil never feels like he's talked enough about anything, from what I understand.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Now check out the highlight videos. You get to see in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You get to see what we did, and it's a pretty quick watch over on the YouTubes. So check out Youth on the Air on YouTube and watch those. And we do have a new video that will be coming out soon that is for the whole week. So we'll let everybody know when that comes out. But you can go back and watch the ARIS Contact, the opening ceremony, closing ceremony, the balloon launch, and then those daily highlight videos over on YouTube. So check it out.
And we're not going to leave you out, Bill. Yeah. I know you had something else you wanted to ask, so go for it.
Well, I was just going to say that on the highlight videos, I feel like I've watched each of them at least 5 times. Yeah, they're good.
Cool.
Well, I'm going to check it out too.
Yeah, Neil, I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your staff and volunteers, maybe highlight who helped you actually produce this camp on the ground.
Yeah, sure. Sterling N0SSC and Sam Rose KC2LRC that I mentioned earlier went over to Austria and brought back all the information, and so they were a huge help in getting all this moving, and tremendous resource to okay, what do I need to do, what kinds of things do I need to plan, and then they came, and Sterling ended up being our video man for most of it. James Lee was also there volunteering, and he'd run into some heart issues, so we weren't sure that he was going to make it, but he did. So we actually ended up having 2 camera shots. So that was nice to have both of those. But Sterling did the live streaming and some of the social media posting that week. And Sam was our staff photographer, so he was running around everywhere with his camera. Took several hundred pictures. And then Jocelyn Broke, 88VRX, is the president of the club that works with the VOA Museum. And Jocelyn is a good friend, but he's also, the liaison to the museum. So whenever it came time to figure out, okay, where can we put this station? Where can we get tables? What do we need to do? Jocelyn was all over it. And so I just can't thank them enough. And then we brought in Tony Maluzzi and Andy Maluzzi from the Carry thing over at ARRL. They came and jumped in and did one of the sessions, and Tony did the check-in and was just, setting up everything. Andy came in and kind of gave us some relief. He missed the first few days, but was some much needed fresh legs for the end of the week. And we had some parents that chipped in and just, took care of all the medical stuff and helped with the food. And my wife, Julie, she ran the whole week. I think she was as busy as I was, taking care of setting up the meals and making sure everything was ready to go. Running here, running there to pick up ice and, drinks and everything. So, and the games. So just, had a great group of people to work with.
Yeah, that's great. That's always good to hear. We know we get a lot of sponsors and donors and stuff like that, but the people that actually show up and do the lifting.
And Will from an
sometimes they-
unnamed radio manufacturer gave us radios to use and took care of all of the radios, made sure that everybody, had something to use and knew how to program it, and took charge of the shack. So Will did an excellent job.
Let me guess. ICOM.
From it might have been from ICOM. I don't know. I wouldn't want to say ICOM too many times, but
Yeah, no, we don't want to mention
Well,
ICOM
let's not leave
or
anybody-
RNL Electronics or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, let's not leave any of them out. Let's go ahead and why don't you go ahead and give us a list of your
my
major
gosh.
jobs
Yeah,
that really made
just
this
do
event
it.
happen. Let's
Yep.
just go ahead
Oh
and do
my
it.
gosh, now I got to do it from memory. So let's see. Worldwide Radio Operators Foundation, YASME, Northern California DX Foundation, Heil Sound, Swodexa.
I'm sorry, you can't say Heil Sound here.
Yeah.
Too close to home.
Yeah.
Oh wait, sorry. Never mind.
Let's see. Did I say YASME?
Yes.
ARRL Foundation. Oh geez, I need the back of my shirt.
I'll help you out.
Hamcation,
Hamcation.
Huntsville.
Dayton
Yeah.
Amateur Radio, Huntsville Hamfest, RNL, Radio Amateurs of Canada, and
Yes,
Xtronic USA.
got us all those soldering stations. So there you go. Shameless
right.
Awesome.
plugs.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, well, thanks once again, Neil, for hitting us up here and wanting to close up with sort of wrap up your event, Youth on the Air, and we're looking forward to see how this goes in the future and where you can take it for IARU. We just call it YARU usually because it's easier to say than IARU.
That's why I
IARU.
just keep saying America's.
Yeah. But region 2. Anyway. And thank you, Peter, for being here and giving us your personal perspective of the event. It was great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. This is probably not something you do every day, but
That's for sure.
all right. Well, it was great to have you, and good to have you, Neil. And if anybody has not heard of Ham Talk Live, which I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you have, but if for some reason you haven't, you should definitely check out Ham Talk Live, which unfortunately airs at the same time we do. So if you want to listen to it live, you kind of have to make a choice, but it is what it is.
But
Luckily,
there's always Memorex, right?
yeah, absolutely. That's why we record
Yes.
them, except for the 2 times we didn't. and I still cringe every time I think of that. But anyway, thanks guys. We really appreciate you being here. And we got a couple of bits of feedback to do here before we get out of here. And you're welcome to hang out if you like, or you can go about the business of your day if you choose. But thanks once again to Neil, WB9VPG, the worst call sign on the planet.
Yep.
And N8PJL. I remember right, Peter. I know
All right, thanks,
it would be in
guys.
front of me if I actually had the pad up. All right. So thanks a lot, guys. And that was our wrap up or deep dive follow up, if you will, on Youth on the Air Camp for 2021. And we do have a couple of bits of feedback here we need to get to. And the first one I'm going to let Bill handle because it's addressed to him.
Imagine that. Yes, we have a YouTube comment from Dr. Mikhail Hughes, who says, since this video is getting long on the tooth, are you going to do an updated video? And the answer is yes. Yes, I've been promising, but I know I have not delivered. But yes, it'll be shortly. hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I've just been so busy with everything else. It definitely has not surfaced to my list of get this done now. But I definitely want to get this done. So we'll be working on that shortly.
All right, very good. I'll let you do the next one too, since the last one was sort of to me. But
Sure. Yeah, this comment is from episode number 393 from Ken. It's an amazing program for the cell phones and Windows. I wish he would publish a compiled versus for Windows as updates become available. What is this? I wouldn't have a clue how to compile.
I guess I Probably should have given you some context. And I think VS is short for version, but this is about DroidStar.
Oh, DroidStar. Okay, yeah. Windows updates become available. I wouldn't have a clue how to compile, and I'm sure many others would be in the same boat. And of course, DroidStar. Let's see. Is that DudeStar or DroidStar?
Well, I mean, it's about both, but I mean, this was the deep
it's the
dive
same
we did
thing. Yeah, DroidStar is for the phone.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, the DroidStar is definitely good. Windows, there's not a build anymore for Windows. There was some complimentary builds, but I believe those are no longer a thing for DudeStar. So you could definitely either use a Linux or a Mac OS. And now with the Windows subsystem for Linux 2, that also does GUI. If you're on the preview build of Windows and can get that loaded, you can actually just launch DudeStar from your Linux container or your WSL, your subsystem for Linux. So give that a whirl. You might be able to find some of the older Windows builds, but I don't think they recommend using those at all. Although I still have one on one of my machines and it still works. So your mileage may vary, Ken. So thanks a lot for that comment and feedback.
All right, very good. And finally, we have an email from Gene, BX8AAD, over in not Thailand. Where the hell is he at? Taiwan. I wanted to say Thailand for some reason, but that's not where he's at. He's in Taiwan. He says, "Hi, Russ. You've had a busy week or so and lots of driving." Yes, I did. That was last week. I drove well in excess of 3,000 miles last week, so that was fun. Hope it was enjoyable. It actually was. I've started an amateur radio class at the children's home where I teach. My class is at 6:30 p.m. local time. Friends in Hong Kong offered to be on the air yesterday for a QSO, and we tried on 20 meters and 40 meters QRP SSB, but we could only just barely hear one another on 20 meters and no reception at all on 40 meters. VOACAP indication was that these are our best bets. We'll try again in the evening with another group of students. The advantage of Hong Kong hams is that they can also speak Mandarin with my students if we have a successful connection. Thanks again for the fine podcast. Have a great summer. 73 Gene BX8AAD. So thanks for that, Gene. I hope you have a great summer as well. I hope your experimentation with QRP communications over there in Taiwan goes well, especially with the folks in Hong Kong. And hope you and yours have a great summer season. It's not too hot, and you stay COVID-free as the world goes into a second death spiral. So anyway, that is all the feedback we have for tonight. And that, I think, will bring us down to the end of episode number 421 of Linux in the Ham Shack. But before we go, we should mention the folks who are in the chat room tonight with us. We had Steve K7HPT, Don KC9ZMY, not KB9ZMW, as Bill.
And not Tom.
Right. Ted, WA0EIR, Frank, KE8SHB, Sterling, N0SSC, and Darren, VK6EK, from all the way down under. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the show. We hope you enjoyed it. And tune in for the Weekender and the Short Topics episodes, which will be the next ones we record, 422 and 423. And until then, we hope you have a great week, and we will catch up with you all very, very soon. For the On Assignment Cheryl, W5MOO, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
Then I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.